Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and just as a reminder, go to daixrp.com to join the Patreon, my private group, or click the join button below any of these YouTube videos. I'm going to show you a video about the PetroDollar, more content on Jim Rickards today in the main video, but in the group, I'm going to show you, this guy has always been kind of negative on crypto, but there's two digital assets that I know of that he has specifically addressed in a good way. I'm going to show you those two and show you some other things he said. Today is Saturday, and on Saturdays we have fun. As you know, I get every Friday the guys from Gulf of America, XRP.com. That's where you go to sign up for the free newsletter. And these guys send me properties that are on the Gulf of America. And this one you're looking at is a $6.4 something million property. This is, I believe, in Santa Rosa Beach, one of the nicest beaches on the planet. This is what your view would look like for that amount of money in Santa Rosa Beach, right there on the ocean. And this would be your living room, I guess. I just wanted to show you those pictures. These guys are XRP guys, Gulf of America, XRP.com. You can go and you can sign up for the thing. These guys, just so you know, these guys cover all the way from Panama City Beach, Florida, all west, all the way down Gulf of America, all of that part of Florida. But they also have a network where they can network with their people and sell you properties all over Florida and in other areas of the country and outside the country. They've got a huge network. You can, if you're not interested in the newsletter and you'd rather just go look at properties, if you're ready to do that now, and these guys are one of my partners. You can call Daniel at 850-890-8884, or you can text him at 850-890-8884. Now, if you're like me, you're getting ready for one of your exits, and I'm doing it with my partner Caleb and Brown. You can go to go there. You go to xrpwealth589.com, and it'll forward you right to my page. I'm doing it with them because while I'm waiting, I get institutional custody. I have access to they have liquidity providers all around the world in major hubs, and of course I have a person I can call up and say sell when I want to. Check this out. This is Miguel Viaz. He was the former head of XRP markets.
Look, I don't know if you guys noticed, I use XRP and Ripple very differently. Right? I never call XRP Ripple because it gets really confusing. The company, the asset, it's all over the place. So the company, that enterprise software that it's building is a replacement for Swift today. Right? Swift is the way that banks send money across the world today. It's the protocol for that. So we are definitely trying to replace that protocol. That's not what XRP is trying to do. XRP is trying to be a complement to fiat, sending money across borders, if you will, fiat to fiat. So it's trying to be a bridge.
Like facilitate settlements.
It'll facilitate settlements.
XRP.
Now, guess who's going to be at XRP Las Vegas? Miguel Viaz, the guy you just watched. I don't think he's been to an XRP conference since he left Ripple, but he's going to be on stage. If you haven't gotten your tickets, we're about 11 or 12 days out now, folks. It's getting exciting now. Go to xrplasvegas.com to do that, to get your tickets. Now, the market's come down a little bit, but I believe right now, in fact, I personally believe this weekend could, I'm not saying it will, but it could be one of the final excellent buying opportunities in this thing, because the rumors are that stablecoin legislation is happening on Monday. Remember this clip?
I remember I was trying to buy an apartment in Miami and I got outbid by a crypto bro. And I'm just like, that bastard. He just bought, he heard about Bitcoin when it was, I don't know, $8, $7. It's up on 100. I've slaved for 20 years and he just outbid. So yes, there's 100% of FOMO on everything. I think that's the meme coin. That's general. I mean, I don't know. Bitcoin, I don't know if there's as much FOMO now. It's so established, but like, that's why I'm in XRP. Like that it's FOMO. It's not like I have some grand belief in it, but it's what? $2, 40 cents or something like that. It's like, what if that's the next Bitcoin?
Yeah.
So FOMO, I think, plays
You're right over the target. And this picture was going around from Riz. I don't know where he got this, but that's Brad Garlinghouse with Dave Portnoy. What a coincidence. Now, the talk is that this stablecoin, I mean, folks, this is one of the biggest, probably the biggest thing to happen since I got into crypto, and it could happen Monday.
But let's start with the stablecoin bill, which is expected to go into vote on Monday. And Loomis believes senators have reached a deal on the stablecoin bill. So this is the largest piece of crypto legislation we've seen to date. And this should get passed because stablecoins are sort of one of the easier aspects of crypto to understand.
The reality is every single person in the world outside of America wants to own the US dollar. We should be very, very proud of that as a country. So to be able to actually launch a digital stablecoin, ours is called USD1, backed one-to-one by the US Treasury, and get massive adoption around the world, that just kind of buoys up the US dollar. The strength of the US dollar puts so many people from around the world in the US dollar.
Now, this bill is for all stablecoins in the United States, backed by the US dollar. It was really the Democrats that were halting the process just a little to make sure they specified the language. And now, in a direct quote from Senator Loomis, she says, "It has been an all-week marathon and sprint at the same time, but I believe we've got final language. So members will have a chance to look at it over the weekend again, and I expect procedural votes to begin on Monday." This is known as the Genius Act. It creates a regulatory framework for payment stablecoins, and all the minor changes that the Republicans and Democrats in Congress they were debating on, they were very detail-oriented as opposed to major changes, meaning both sides appear to want stablecoin regulation. It's going to get done. They're just final language to flush out. And just to highlight some of the changes that the Democrats wanted, which are pretty reasonable in my opinion, but was being ironed out all this week, the document also highlighted new restrictions aimed at limiting big tech's ability to take advantage of stablecoins. So the language that had to be updated was this. The new language bars non-financial publicly traded companies from issuing a stablecoin unless they can meet strict criteria regarding financial risk, consumer data privacy.
You have to wonder, Ripple has not gone public. What if they have no intention of going public?
Privacy and fair business practices, meaning they didn't want Mark Zuckerberg to be able to create his own stablecoin and go outside of the banking system and have limited or just less safe regulations. This helps prevent companies like Meta, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft from issuing a stablecoin and maintains the separation between banking and commerce.
I used to say there are more crypto owners than dog owners, and so why are you the party against dogs? And I think the smart Democrats get it. And so we got to get this bill done.
All right, so Novogratz, who bets dimes to donuts because he has information the rest of us don't have. He always has information. Then we've got this from Senator Bill Hagerty. Next week, the Senate will make history when we pass the Genius Act that establishes the first ever pro-growth regulatory framework for payment stablecoins. This bill will cement the U.S. dollar dominance, protect customers, increase demand for U.S. treasuries, and ensure the innovation in the digital asset space in the hands of the United States of America, not our adversaries. Well, this is not a coincidence, folks. This is the reason this thing is going to pass, because all these senators and all these congressmen, you think these guys haven't been briefed by our intelligence agencies and the people who look after United States security? You think this thing isn't bigger? You think crypto just happened? Come on. Look at what I've written here. Crypto was created to underpin. This is the truth. I've been saying it for years. Brad Combs has been saying it for years. In fact, we've taken a lot of grief from people saying, "Oh, that's a bunch of conspiracy, wild speculation," and we're right. We've always been right. Crypto was created to underpin the US dollar and replace the petrodollar. I wonder what neutral bridge digital asset could be deployed to bridge all these stablecoins globally. And then these are Rickard's quotes out of this video. You better get back to maintaining the value of the dollar. That's why I call it PetroDollar 2.0. That's why I call it PetroDollar 2.0. It does need refreshment. It was never a treaty, by the way. It was a memo, which at least at the time was classified. And I said, if crypto was created to replace the petrodollar, just imagine what would be classified about its creation. Think about all the secrets in crypto, all the misdirection, the Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. And then I remind you, Ripple is not an ordinary company. We are here to make a dent in the universe. That's a quote from Naveen Gupta, former Ripple managing director. Now, listen to Jim Rickards if you want to understand the big picture of what this is all really about.
It's a good time to remember the petrodollar accord, which is still in place. It was put in place in 1974, but it's still active today. And I was actually part of the team that put that together. We had a carrot and stick approach. So the carrot was Bill Simon, who was Secretary of the Treasury, Jerry Parsky, and they went to the Saudis and they said, look, everybody in the world needs oil. So if you price oil in dollars, everybody needs dollars because they got to buy the oil. And that basically underpins the role of the dollar as the global reserve currency. There's more to it, but that's the key thing. And by the way, sorry, when you get your dollars for the oil, deposit them in U.S. banks. There was tax counsel of the Citibank, actually, and the banks will lend it to South America, and they'll buy our stuff. We'll get the whole economy out of the ditch, which it was in 1974. So that was the carrot. But there was a stick. And I worked with Helmut Sonnenfeld, who was the Deputy National Security Advisor in the White House under Henry Kissinger. And the stick was, if you don't do it, we're going to invade Saudi Arabia, not the whole place, it's mostly sand, but the eastern provinces, take over the oil production. We will produce as much as we want. We will price it wherever we want. We'll hold the money in trust for the Saudi people, but basically we're going to run the oil market combined with U.S. oil production.
Slow down.
This was 1974, so the carrot was price it in dollars. Everybody needs oil, therefore everybody needs dollars, and we'll give you a security umbrella as well. That was the carrot. That was the approach. That's what happened.
But hold it.
Well, but you're right, Steve. That was 1971. But that was exactly the point, which is, hey, if you're Saudis, why not just pump oil, dump the dollars and buy gold and, put the gold in the vault? How do you get the dollars in circulation? It's not just about the quantity of dollars. It's about the circulation of dollars. And that was the key. Everybody in the world was going to need dollars. You couldn't buy oil and gold. Now, that was a possibility, by the way. The Saudis could have said, hey, give us gold and we'll sell you the oil. They didn't. They said, we'll sell you the oil for dollars. And that was the petrodollar accord. Now, by weight of gold, the dollar dropped 95% from 1971 to 1980. Gold went from $35 an ounce to $800 an ounce. So if you use gold as your yardstick, it was a 95% devaluation of the dollar. And the moral of the story is have some gold. But you also need oil and you also needed dollars. So we took the plan, basically, the invasion plan, and we leaked it to the Chicago Tribune, and the Saudis read both sides of the equation, and they said, okay, we'll do the petrodollar accord. But my point is, it's still in place. Now, we may be getting close to petrodollar 2.0, and obviously Scott Besson's there, and he would be... well, you're right, but they are cracks, but that's the point. That's why it's time for petrodollar accord 2.0. Let's get back to where we were, and that's one of the reasons the president is in Saudi Arabia meeting with MBS. So, yeah, but you're right, Steve, but the amount of Chinese yuan that the Saudis took for oil is minuscule relative to the overall market, and they don't want the yuan. Like, what are you going to do with the yuan? I mean, buy some Chinese manufactured goods. Fine, they don't even need that many. But this is the Saudis' way and the Emirates' way of signaling the United States. Hey, you better get back to being our friend. You better get back to giving us a security umbrella, and you better get back to maintaining the value of the dollar. And then we'll, as I say, that's why I call it petrodollar 2.0. It does need refreshment. It was never a treaty, by the way. It was a memo, which at least at the time was classified. I think that's ever been revealed. But you don't need.
Folks, I've said it for years. We had the Manhattan Project from the atom bomb. The maintaining the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency, or at least making it a shared part of the world reserve currency into the next 100 years, would also need a Manhattan Project. I believe crypto is that Manhattan Project. specifically XRP.
Need a treaty. You just need a firm handshake, and they can trust Trump. But that's one of the reasons he's there. And the idea that, oh, this is just a business trip or whatever. Well, yeah, but it's all dollar based. That's the thing. So the Saudis will still sell oil to the Chinese, but they'll tell the Chinese you have to pay in dollars. That puts the pressure on the Chinese, because how do they get dollars? They sell stuff to the United States. What are the tariffs? Well, they were 150% 2 days ago. Maybe they're 30% for the next 90 days. But this is a very complex game, and the Russians are involved. But the U.S., by strengthening the relationship with Saudi Arabia, going to PetroDollar 2.0, puts the pressure on China to basically reduce their tariffs and meet some of Trump's requirements. Otherwise, they don't have a source of dollars.
There you have it, folks. And then here's Mike Novogratz making a prediction.
I'm not going to call it prediction. I'm just going to, a little Nostradamus, that there's a BRICS stablecoin that comes out in the next 12 months that is backed by gold. Not fully, but partially. Because I know they're doing a BRICS currency and they're going to want to have their stablecoin. And, what better message that this has got gold in it. And so I don't think the gold phenomena is going away.
I don't either. Here's Eric Trump talking SWIFT.
So this is maybe my favorite question of all, and I think everybody in here probably knows that Trumps aren't very good at biting their tongue, so I'm just going to be very direct. The modern financial system is broken, guys. It's absolutely broken. It's slow, it's expensive, it's antiquated, and it's broken. I run one of the greatest real estate companies in the world, and there's not a single Friday, and I say this all the time, that goes by where I'm not waiting for a SWIFT wire transfer to come through at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, either sending one out or waiting for one to come through. Yet, the same night while drinking a glass of wine with your wife, you can send out $1 million worth of Bitcoin. It can hit somebody's wallet 3 seconds later if you wanted to do it, right? There's a massive disconnect between the technology of crypto and the technology of the biggest banks around the world. Second of all, so many of those banks have been weaponized. And I was, case in point, I was probably the most canceled person for doing absolutely nothing wrong, only because we had a political view, and a political view that might not have been popular with some of the big financial institutions. And guys, they came after me like I was a dog. I mean, I was a guy who never missed a loan payment. I was a guy who, had the greatest assets in the world, was incredibly under-levered. I mean, operated a great company. It just always did the right thing, never got into trouble, no commas out of place. And they canceled us like we were a piece of, I wish I could say it, and it was really interesting. I would have never fallen into this world. I mean that. I just would have never fallen into this world if the very same people who were attacking me for no reason happened to be the same people that were attacking all of us really on the stage, all of you, everybody out in this audience. I mean, how many people out there lost accounts?
They attacked no one more than they did Ripple.
From the biggest banks because, everybody's raising their hands, right? You lost accounts to the biggest banks because you happen to like buying Ethereum or Bitcoin. I mean, it's simple examples now that would literally make you laugh. And you realize how unfair it was. And I'm a guy that's sitting there. There's a lot of zeros on our balance sheet, as you could probably imagine. If they could do it to us, believe me, they can take down the guy that doesn't have the financial wherewithal, that doesn't have the balance sheet that we have. And it's so fundamentally unconstitutional. It's so fundamentally improper. But I looked at my wife one day and I said, we went to buy a house, and this was under my father's first term, where interest rates were 2%. And I go, listen, honey, we'd be schmucks not to go out and take a loan, right? You're borrowing effectively free money. And they put me through 120 days of nonsense, paper forms, know your customer reports. I'd been banking with that bank for 25 years. They knew that my assets exceeded the value of the house by many times. They made my life absolutely hell. And I'm sitting there saying, how can this be? I mean, why is it that, again, using Bitcoin, why is it using Ethereum, why is it based on using USD1, you can transfer millions, billions around the world instantaneously? Yet if I want to pull out a couple of bucks because I want to buy the dream house with my partner, I can't do it. Guys, our financial institution is screwed up. SWIFT is screwed up. It doesn't work. It's behind the times. Bankers have not kept up with technology. They have not. And by the way, bankers have been punitive to all of us, to so many people in this. And by the way,
remember, Brad Garlinghouse's account was pulled. I think it was at Citi. My account, personally, my account. One day, I think I've told this story many times. I was sent a letter they wouldn't tell me why they were closing my bank account. Same thing happened to me because I was buying crypto.
Wait, if they're doing that in the United States of America, you know what they'll do in third world countries? And that's what made me fall in love with these people. That's what made us fall in love with this interest, with this community. Again, we were a family that only bought hard assets. I mean, we didn't believe in the things that you couldn't see that were, kind of opaque to, and all of a sudden you realize that those were actually the most valuable assets because of all the safeguards that come with it. That they're cheaper, that they're faster, that they're more transparent, they're more modern. They can't be set on fire. They can't disappear. They can't disappear based on corruption. They can't be devalued. And I love it. I love this industry and I love the people. They say, there's a famous saying that sometimes the enemy of your enemy is actually your best friend. That was the Trumps with the crypto community. And I think the banks made the biggest mistake of their lives.
What a great clip. I'm gonna go into the group from here. DAIXRP.com if you want to join through Patreon. If you'd like to join through YouTube, click the join button below any of my YouTube videos. In the group, I'm gonna show you some things. A lot of you, some of you have seen them, but a lot of you have never seen these Jim Rickards tweets and clips where he specifically names 2 digital assets. He doesn't like Bitcoin. Remember, this guy was like a CIA contractor. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, tell your friends and family. Away we go.